Good morning, welcome to a morning review. This is Kim Watson speaking on Tuesday, the 19th of January. Okay, looking at the euro dollar first, and as you can see, it's really become very, very choppy here. There's no clear direction from the daily perspective any longer. There were hints of direction previously, now there's nothing at all, and we're pretty much going sideward. Looking as we come down the time frames, this is the obviously daily time frame. Let's just look at the 4 hourly. Let's just see how the chop has been running on and on. At the moment, with what we're seeing here, I'm just trying to work out some sort of direction for what to look for here for today. It's so messy, and I'm just looking at this sort of 4 hourly time frame. Well, it looks pretty much downward, and when you come down to the hourlies, well, again at this stage it still looks whew, pretty much downward. However, look at you going here in this sort of intermediate time. There was these sort of higher lows that were kicking through up until now, and the higher highs, but we yesterday just sat there in this horrible mess. Uh, Today we're eking out to put some sort of a hammer in here, possibly, which could see it moving back into yesterday's range. Pretty much, it's already hit the daily pivot. And daily S1, it really takes away a lot of targets here all in one go. Now there is a possibility of a shove up. If it does start shoving up, yesterday's high certainly would be on the radar quite easily. Maybe the R1 there. Any prolonged rally would still be looking for Friday's highs, but for now, as I say, very messy. Shorter time frames are suggesting, well, we could potentially be finding a bit of support here, but it has broken that prior low there, so it's certainly not far from clear. It's certainly far from clear on the bigger time frames, that's for sure. Okay, looking at the pound dollar. Pound dollar really has been in this horrible sell-off phase. I say horrible, it's nothing at all, lovely trend. However, each day it's tried at some point to rally up, and it did it again yesterday with mediocre success. However, it's now in this sort of position. If you come out, actually, the daily's not showing us too much more actually on the days, apart from you can see how extreme it is in terms of this sell-off. It hasn't been that extreme for a long time, so we would expect at some point a bounce. Now, there is some divergence running on, if you look at the MACD, there's a bit of divergence on the MACD indicator there, there's a bit of divergence on the RSI. So, there is the possibility that we could get a bit more traction here back towards that weekly pivot at some point. Looking at the hourly point of view, and it didn't quite diverge at these lows here, but certainly when price was coming down, the RSI was well up there. Hadn't really come down. The strength of that initial move may have been strong enough. For now, though, it's run back towards the target I was looking for. One of the targets I was really looking at yesterday, the potential for the 50 and maybe the weekly pivot. There still is the potential, maybe tomorrow, of that weekly pivot being hit. If only we can get some traction and maybe get above yesterday's highs. At the moment, they probably remain a target to the upside. Now we're sort of running through this 50 again. That's if we can hold on to it. Alternatively, a break of this is a very steep trend line running across these lows here. I'll drop it on there for you. It's pretty difficult to draw actually because it's so steep. Running somewhere there. Trying to put it on there. There we go. A break of that, well, maybe see these lows tested once again. But again, already hit the daily pivot pretty close to the R1 as well. So really wiping out some of the targets I generally look for. Dollar yen. Now, the yen's been strengthening pretty much against the dollar. We've now got divergence on the dailies pretty clear. It started showing yesterday. We had a good, reasonable update there. Another update here today. So far, it seems like a little bit of risk off, sort of as much as anything else going on with the dollar yen. Back into its chop zone from a 4-hourly perspective. When you look at this, it's been chopping for quite a period around that area. Whether it will push back into that area, the obvious resistance levels, those prior highs, if it carries on in this route, and then maybe that 100 MA stroke the monthly S1 there. Looking from a 60-minute point of view, well, it's doing all the right things for a more positive trend here in this intermediate time. Got the higher lows popping in there, higher highs, but yeah, yesterday was such a tight range. The pivot's very pinched. We're already up at the R2 here. Now, of course, with the pivots being so pinched, maybe a retracement and another shove could take us up to those prior highs towards the S3 as a target. Certainly a possibility there. Okay, Aussie dollar. Again, one of those that's been punished quite a bit more recently. Again, there's this sort of divergency sort of move rolling, still sitting there. It's not sitting on anything else. I'll just look and see if it's had a previous sort of oversold signals coming in last week, and it never really held. The currency is so weak. It's more. Oops, sorry. Not only that, it was more a potential continuation. No, it wasn't. No, it was a proper oversold signal. It's all right. In that which case, you either expected more of a bounce. However, it really is struggling. It is one of the weaker currencies in terms of particularly risk. When we're looking at the risk that's going on here. So at the moment, well, it's double topped into some prior highs there. Into yesterday's highs, actually Asian session highs at the moment, coming off again. Possible move back. So again, it sort of runs through the daily pivot, hit the R1. It's sort of wiping out sort of possible targets for the day already with this Asian session move. Could come back towards the daily pivot the way it's sort of shaping up at this point here. However, a break of that 100, well, it may get a bit more of a sustained rally here, back maybe to that 60-minute 200. Not one I'm really looking for personally to go long on. I just really think with the risk the way it sits, it always has the risk to the downside though, regardless of the technicals. So the the Canadian dollar, beg your pardon. Looking at this, hanging man we ended up with yesterday, it's which is bearish signal. We've seen the sell-off from that, moved right the way back to the 4-hourly 21. We do have the weekly pivot underneath, which has a reasonable probability of being hit, along with that 34 moving average. So there is some good targets. Ties in pretty much with the daily 8, of course. It's not far from that either. And what we've done here is we put over the session here, the late US session, running into the Asian session. We put a lower high and lower low in at this point here. Again, we've hit the daily pivot, the S1, and almost the S2. The range yesterday was so tight, it's brought the pivots very, very tight. And now it's hit the statistical points I'd be looking for, but it has still got a weekly pivot underneath. We're pretty close to it. Any sort of continuation here, any continuation of strength could see us running through there. The oil, again, I've got to always look back at the oil price, has had a little bit of a pickup here back towards the $30 barrel. I think this could be temporary with oil about to slush out from Iran, but we'll see. For now, it's having a shove up. This in turn can bring the Canadian dollar down. Right, that's pretty much it for me from that point of view. Let's have a look at the news. We've got today at 9:30, we've got the CPI coming out, inflation figures coming out for the UK. Can be quite a mover. It's expected to come in around about zero point 0.1. Anything less than that could see the pound sell off really quite steeply again. It really has. It's really quite detrimental. It just pushes back any chances of interest rates based on inflation being pushed back anyway. And likewise, we could see a bit of a help to the upside there and a bit more recovery if we see a positive number coming in today. So quite a lot of emphasis will be put on that at 9:30. Then really nothing else of significance for quite some time. I'm just looking. We've got the German ZEW economic sentiment and the European figure coming out at 10 o'clock. It can give a little kicker, but nothing significant. Beyond that, then, well, there's nothing in the sessions that we trade. Thereafter, if you run through into the evenings, GDT price index in New Zealand and the CPI in New Zealand at 9:45 p.m. So there's some figures later on, well into the evening, but during the day, very light in real terms. Just seeing really just the UK CPI figures coming out, inflation figures is the main one today. That's it for me. Hope you have a great one. Bye for now.